Namaste, DisclosureFest. I'm Bonnie Burkert, also known as Yogi Bon, and today we are celebrating World Mental Health Day with a friend and a very wise mental health and mental wellness advocate, Rynda Laurel. Rynda, thank you for being a part of this as DisclosureFest wishes to bring this conversation about mental health awareness into our conversations, not just today, but always. Please tell us about your journey.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It means a lot to be part of this amazing group. I've been following Disclosure Fest for a bit, and yeah, the fact that we want to discuss mental health in this arena is really, really important and wonderful. So I'm much appreciative of being here.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to start this before I get into my story. I kind of want to just start as like a little teaser. Today, when I was getting ready in the shower, I find a lot of good ideas come to me in the shower. Someone better than me could figure out like it's water eons or something. But and I realized today that like mental health for me is like this circular puzzle piece. Like if you visualize a puzzle, like a flat, but a circular puzzle, and you have all these different pieces that you sort of need to address in mental health and wellness.
Yeah.
And if you are sort of doing only one of those things, either it encompasses the other puzzle pieces and you're not getting enough nurturing in those places, or you're not getting enough because you're not doing enough the whole thing. So part of what I learned in 28 years now of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction and 5 years clinical depression free, which we'll get into all that, is really about the path to filling out that circle for you and filling out those puzzle pieces, and what I find happens in different groups of people that I talk to is they skip some things. And in this group, I really feel like you can meditate, you can do breath work and yoga and all this great empowering body, mind, spirit stuff. But if you're not addressing some of the biochemical things that make us depressed and anxious and worried and stuff like that, like really the biochemistry part is I think what is missing a lot from the discussion, which is something I like to bring to the table.
That's fascinating. I don't think a lot of people think about it. They maybe know to take supplements for detoxing, but maybe not ever looking at what we can do to nourish our minds.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for bringing this holistic approach. So tell us more. You've obviously figured it out. You figured out some interesting things.
Well, it's always a work in progress, isn't it?
For all of us.
Yeah. So, all right, I'll tell you a little bit. It'll qualify what I'm about to say. I always joke, I was born 9 months after the Summer of Love in San Francisco. My mom took me to see Jim Morrison in her womb. It completely explains everything about me.
That's incredible.
But anyway, so sort of looking back, mental health, you do have to sort of look back at your history and like what happened when you were young. And some of us went through a lot of trauma. Some of us went through some trauma that doesn't seem traumatic in the scheme of things, but still models our behavior. Growing up in the 60s in San Francisco modeled my behavior. And then moving to Los Angeles. And so it might not be trauma-based, which is something we talk a lot about. But it's still something that we need to look at. I know for me, I started drinking and experimenting with drugs probably about the same time as most teenagers, I would say. But for me, what happened was, I didn't feel 100%. I didn't feel great, and I didn't feel in my body, and I didn't feel confident, and all those things that I think, again, a lot of teenagers go through this. It's not an abnormal experience. But my choice was to try and fill that void or try and change that behavior and that thoughts with drugs and alcohol. And then I got in the music business, and that provided a space for me to continue that path for a little bit longer. And then, of course, music became a really great mental health, a positive force for mental health for me. Crying to songs helps you get these emotions out.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's very interesting, and I think that maybe at a certain point in our lives we can find music as its own natural high, but along the way and through previous years, I think they just like, I don't know, maybe the substance abuse went really hand in hand with the certainly the live music experience. So, I mean, that's what's interesting about what we're doing today. So, okay, so you were in the music industry. You're living in California and you're having a lot of fun. So, tell us, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but tell us where you made some turns that helped you kind of wake up.
Yeah. I like that I'm just sharing this with everybody. I hope everybody appreciates my vulnerability here. Yeah, I hit a really emotional, spiritual, and what we call emotional, spiritual, physical bottom. I was drinking a lot. I was using heroin. I was, it was the early '90s. That's kind of what you did. But it got bad for me. But again, just on this emotional, spiritual plane, which is what we're talking about, your frequency gets so low when you abuse your body like that. It really does. So like I had moved to New York, and so this like really super low vibrational frequency was happening. Is how I would describe it in these terms. And I hit a bottom, and I reached out and asked for help, and got some help, and I moved back to California, which is a little bit of a higher frequency, and my home and my family. And I started on a journey that included learning how to deal with the mental health issues and the depression and anxiety and low self-esteem and all that kind of stuff, which is what caused all that in the first place. And then if you don't address those, that causes a lot of the mental health issues.
Yeah.
But also so does just your biochemistry being off. But again, like starting this journey, July 10th of 92 is my sobriety date. And starting that journey from then on, and really trying to find all these different modalities to just help me feel better, And so I did, I'm a member of a 12-step program that was helpful to bring me to connection and to the idea of a higher power. And then I just kept going on this spiritual journey and this, I'm an avid reader, so I would like devour a subject. Like when it came to the idea of, God and this connection, which we need for mental health. We really do. We need some sort of connection with this presence. And so I started, reading everything I could about quantum physics and, connect just whatever I could do. Then I sort of shifted and got into like the idea of how your brain works, and cognitive therapy and changing your thinking. And I read Joe Dispenza and how to sort of like change your wiring of your brain. It's a lot.
Oh, it's great. It's great. So maybe do you want to share any of, favorite pearls of wisdom and how you've distilled them to make them your own?
Yeah, and I would just say, like, again, I'm talking about my journey, but like we all have a lot of the similar journeys. So if you're out there struggling with depression, anxiety, any of these mental health issues, like find your path, find your puzzle piece here. For me, again, it sort of morphed over the years, and doing just avid learning and understanding what kind of worked for me, getting into yoga, then getting into breath work, and getting into feng shui, because that talk kind of reminded me of quantum physics. And the last 3 years, let me go back a bit. I took a break from a lot of the metaphysical stuff because I still didn't feel great. Mm. So I was doing all the metaphysical, I was doing, 12-step work. So I was doing, cognitive therapy, ideation. I was doing yoga. I was exercising. I was eating pretty right, not great. And I still felt awful. Mm-hmm. And so this is where the turn for me was huge, because I started studying the biochemistry of the brain and these neurotransmitters that are talked about. And a lot of times when you go to an allopathic doctor, that's when they put you on, Prozac or, an SSRI or any kind of medication. They'll just throw it at you, which they did to me, and which I accepted at one point because I needed it. And when I was ready to get off that, I did a lot of research on, well, what are the alternatives? Like, what does an SSRI do? What does that even mean? What is a, selective serotonin uptake inhibitor? What? Like, what does, SNR mean? It works on the dopamine. What's dopamine? What's norepinephrine? What's serotonin? These are all mood balancing chemicals within your body that if they're off, you're not going to feel great no matter how much of the other things you're doing. And those things do help those things. There's science behind that. But if you're off there, you're not going to feel 100%. So I went on this journey about learning about amino acid therapy and what herbs and supplements really work in those same lines of the pharmaceuticals, and was able to get off pharmaceuticals and actually be more happy off of them through supplements. And that's why I started Very Every Day.
I wanted to bring that up and set you up to mention Rynda's got a fantastic company called Very Every Day, spelled VRY, and we'll talk more about different options. Obviously, you've done a lot of different type of work, which is really interesting, and she is available for private consultations if you need. So tell us a little bit about today's a day that meditation is a huge focus of our day. So I'd like to ask you about your daily practice. You've mentioned a few things that you've done, but maybe you'd like to give us some more specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, when you sort of mentioned that we might talk about this, I decided today, which is not like me to share, but I'm gonna sort of share my morning ritual space with you for a second. I'm gonna switch it over here a little bit. If you can see there, I have a candle burning from House of Intuition, which is my fave. They will ship anywhere. I'm working on self-love right now. So that's my ritual. That's what I'm working on there.
Big theme of the day. Big theme of the day, self-love.
Yeah, self-love. Also, I do a lot of, I also love Urban Mysticism has a great spray, like a detox spray I spray around in the morning to like detox my life. I sort of put things in my ritual area that like I'm sort of trying to work on during that time period. And a lot of it these days is based on Shani Nicholas and her, I hope I'm saying that right. I just read her book. I've never said it. She has a book called You Were Born for This. She's an amazing astrologer. And I love astrology and astronomy mixed. So at night, by the way, I go outside because I'm in Joshua Tree and I can do this. And I'm like, there's Mars and there's Saturn. And Shani says it's Mars and Saturn conjunct. And now I know what that means in real time, what it looks like. But she has these rituals that are these courses that you can purchase that are basically like new moon, full moon, and then sort of whatever is going on astrologically. And with each one, you get a reading for your sign and a meditation. And her meditations that she does with these things are always helpful because they feel they're very personal to me because it's for your sign and what you're going through. So the meditation like really feels like it's, not just, it's not just out there. And I find it hard to meditate. So that's really helpful. I also have an app that I use called Pranayama, which is a breathwork app that I try and do in the mornings. And, I'm not perfect with all of this. I definitely could be doing some more yoga practices in the mornings and walking outside in my beautiful backyard. But those are some of the rituals that I sort of do. And it's funny because those rituals are really important for my mental health.
Thank you for that reminder, because it's true. And one of the things, people may have certain associations with ritual, but I think we could maybe interchange the word practice here, just to do something daily, So I'm just really committed. I tell people even just 3 minutes of something. It could be just quietly sitting and breathing, perhaps in the form of a meditation or just breathing. Maybe it's just looking at watering your plants a little bit. I know we need it in California pretty much every day. So we're burning a little sage. So I think it's, I appreciate you sharing some of the details, and please, keep them coming. Do I see some cards there? I mean, do you like to work with things like that?
I'm not really, currently I'm not really doing tarot or anything like that. Um, I was just going to mention that the other meditation thing I do, because I work from home. So during the day, you said water plants, which is amazing. And like, I'm very blessed. I watch the birds. I literally like walk away from the computer and stop and watch the birds for a few minutes and just try and get in the moment. And these are all things that, we know this, but I don't think we really realize how important these things are for your mental health. And then of course, connection is huge, which we haven't talked about, and it's not in my rituals or anything, but this mass meditation and the connection to your fellow human is paramount importance for mental health. I know with COVID and the lockdown and people, I'm so glad there's stuff like this, because connection is really important, and people are getting lonely, and so it's good to have these rituals, but also make sure you're out connecting.
Well, it's true, because you can be kind of isolated in your practice, and probably a little bit of quiet is good for all of us. But I agree. I'm very happy to that we're going to be coming together today, and you and I have had a chance to do DisclosureFest in person in past years, right? The Mass Meditation Initiative. I think we were at
Very.
You were there with Barry, and 2 years ago, and it's a powerful experience. So I'm letting everybody know that we will expect to see you at 2:00 and 7:00 Pacific today for that meditation. You were talking about how it can be challenging to meditate. Do you feel that in your practice with experiments with your different supplements, have you seen any change that way? I mean,
Oh yeah.
grounding, calming, restfulness that allows you to go deeper?
Yeah, so we'll talk about my supplements a little bit in an educational way. There are other options out there, but I made these specifically for these for reasons. Oof. Each supplement that I have has a feel associated to it. So Feel Calm is serenity, and it is basically works on the GABA, which is the calming neurotransmitter. So people with like lots of anxiety and like, stress, this is really helpful for that. And then it's Feel Calm, but it's like using the body, mind, spirit here, making sure that this is calming the body. Some people have depression, and I've created 2 different products that work for depression. One works on serotonin, which is the feel happy neurotransmitter, which if you're low serotonin, you can get insomnia, you get depression. It's really like prevalent if you have low serotonin. It's created in the gut, and you can supplement it with St. John's wort and a bunch of other things. I've made a formula. Someone joked that like I threw everything a naturopath would have given you into one formula, and I'm like, because I don't want to take 20 things.
Right.
So that's the Feel Happy one. Dopamine is the Feel Alive. It works on the neurotransmitter dopamine, and for me that was huge, because I had a form of apathetic depression that I didn't want to get out of the bed. Like I just didn't want to get out of the covers. And when you have low dopamine tone, you just sort of feel like not alive. And so that's why I call this one Feel Alive. I also made a rest well that helps you sleep for insomnia. And then I made a glutamine, which helps with if you get blood sugar imbalances, like if your brain's not, you haven't eaten, or you get this like blood sugar imbalance, you can use that under your tongue and just calm yourself a little bit so you can get to food and other things. And your question was, how does this relate back to meditation? And it's like the same answer I have is, if your body's out of balance, none of the other stuff works. So making your mind right by supporting it with with things that help you internally balance those biochemistry, you're going to be more able to do yoga, do meditation, and do all these things with joy, even show up. Sometimes I just didn't even show up. And so the balance of these things supporting was really the game changer for me. And that's why I launched the line.
And very successfully so. Tell me about your goals for getting through the end of this crazy year. I know that you've mentioned astrology to me along the way, so I thank you for kind of letting me have a look at that, one way of looking at the bigger picture. But I will say that I'm fine in my own little bubble, but there is just palpable stress in the air. So
Yeah.
help me out.
Just so you know, our power trio is like, give it to us, give it to us.
And the purple, I like it.
Yeah, the pink and the purple is called the Anxiety No More. And trust me, people are like, we would like your support, please. And I'm so happy that this is here for people. We also do have a program, if people can't afford it, that other people can donate, purchase to a mood support fund. They can purchase, and then I give it to people that are out of work. So I have a lot of healers that use my products. And when COVID came, they couldn't work. And so I'm like, I ship it, and then other people pay for it. And it makes me feel really great that my community is doing that. So yes, the astrology is crazy. We have Mars in retrograde, which is making everything nutty. We've got a bunch of T-squares and other things like that. Mercury's about to go retrograde next week, right before the election. Everybody's crazy on social media. We've got these class, this manufactured or not, this like civil unrest. And then we have really valid, important civil discourse about, Black Lives Matter and other disparities among people of color and wealth and all kinds. It's just an insane year.
Yeah. And again, bringing it back to World Mental Health Day, I was just having a conversation with somebody in New York about the really bad homeless problem and how we've got, so I'm just going to remind everybody that there is, our cities are full of people that are hurting. So we must come together. We can't ignore this problem. Be supportive. Vote for our local council people that are getting involved and trying to work on these kind of things. There are many causes. We're having to multitask in terms of light workers, in terms of people that really just want to be activated. But I don't want this important awareness around mental health, because there's different levels of it. It's not just people that are one flew over the cuckoo's nest. There are people in our own families. I'm sorry if that's disparaging in any way. People may think that. They may brush a day like this aside, thinking that it's extreme.
Absolutely.
But it can start subtly. It can start subtly, and then it can really get exacerbated. And you are showing us different ways to take care of ourselves, nourishment as well as practices.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to, one of the things that's great is we're having this conversation, and I unfortunately or fortunately think that the deaths in music of some rappers, which I don't know because I'm bad at that, but Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington specifically, and in music, and then Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, and I watched in the last 5 years this really opening up of a conversation around recovery from addiction and alcoholism, and also mental health and mental illness, and these varying levels of them, and smashing the stigma of all of it. It's like smashing the stigma, all of it, and having the conversation and being bold enough to be like, yeah, I get depressed. I still get depressed too. But I now have learned these tools, and if we can talk about it, the more we can talk about it, and the more that we can gather these tools because we're talking about it and start hiding in the corner, the better everybody's going to be about it. And we're going to be able to work on it not only for our own selves, but we're going to be able to be more compassionate for those around us. And we can have more compassion for anybody living through, everybody's living through this time period with different stressors, depending on what who you are. You know, some families are like moms are having to multitask and have kids. Some of us like me are just like home alone and you're like, what do I do? And so like some people are experiencing homelessness. Some people don't have jobs. Like it is, you know, and this has always gone on. It's just amplified right now. And the fact that we're all just here and talking about it and moving towards this higher vibrational frequency and for us personally, trying to fulfill that puzzle piece that I was talking about earlier is key. You know, that's really the key. And just to really just be kind.
No, thank you for saying that. It really, you're giving us some steps, because I know it feels overwhelming. When you look at some of the problems, and I've known people that have, unfortunately, are imbalanced, and I think it started off with maybe even just a pharmaceutical painkiller, and then fast forward, and it's bad, and people near and dear to me, and it becomes, maybe we don't know what to do. And so I bring this up on this day, which is a celebratory day. We're coming together. There's going to be music and higher consciousness. But I just want to say that we can't ignore this. But don't, at the same, and I don't think we are necessarily, but there are even little conversations like this is the start of healing and holding space for people. And you have found specific ways, looking at nourishment, something that is not necessarily really being administered properly for people, and really a discovery. So it's very brave. It's brave of you to be here sharing your story, letting us know that there was a dark night of the soul, but how you've come through it. You're still rocking and rolling. I know you're still in the music business, but at the same time, this is a true passion that you're sharing with us. And do you have any final words to send us off on our first day of Disclosure Fest?
Wow, we've said so much. I just, you know, yes, there is a mental health, smashing the stigma, and there is a mental health issue, and it's going to get worse in this country with what's going on and around the world. There's still a really bad addiction issue out there. And yes, as we can, when we are meditating, we can also think of those people that are, you know, mentally and bodily in pain. Is also really important right now.
Takes you back to what you just said. Be kind, right? The kindness. Rynda Laurel, Very Everyday. That's VRY, everyday.com. Lots of resources, help to be had, great products, and a really great, brilliant, brave woman. Here we go. The day is off to a wonderful start. Thank you, Rynda. It's so great to see you. And thank you, everybody else. Stay tuned for more. We will be convening at 2:22 for the mass meditation. No medication. Meditation. Namaste. I'm Yogi Bhan, and we will see you again very, very soon. Thanks again, Rynda.